President Bola Tinubu has presided over his administration's first Federal Executive Council meeting. Tinubu says the current unemployment rate in Nigeria is unacceptable. The government also says it has no intention to borrow from any local or foreign organization, as the benefits of the petrol subsidy removal will be plowed back into various sectors of the economy to boost revenue. Meanwhile, the finance minister says Nigeria will not be borrowing to create jobs, but will rather seek to encourage investments. State House correspondent Adesua Omoran reports.
The council chambers of the presidential villa comes alive as President Tinubu convenes his inaugural cabinet meeting, just 9 days shy of 100 days in office. In his address, President Tinubu sets the stage, acknowledging the challenges that lie ahead. He places a spotlight on the pressing issue of unemployment and the state of the economy.
The expectation is high, and there's a tough time right now. We must work hard, commit ourselves, and create a buoyant economy that will serve every Nigerian. We have unemployment that is a level that is not acceptable. We are threatened by climate change. But to turn things around, you have been selected to perform your utmost best.
The president further emphasizes collaboration among ministers, underscoring the essence of strong leadership.
It is all in your hand now. I'm ready to listen. Like I said to the NBA yesterday, I'm ready, even for corrections. Only God is perfect. Don't be afraid to take decisions in this situation that you have been called upon to fetch water from a dry well.
Following their closed-door deliberations, ministers reaffirmed the president's directives, pledging to turn words into action as quickly as possible.
We're looking at different sectors of the economy that will contribute to this job creation. Chief among them is the creative industry and the digital economy. His Excellency has also given the mandate that this has to be done quickly. So we should see all of these investments coming into power. We have actually secured commitments from investors into power sector, the rail and transportation sector, security, architecture, steel, digital backbone, solid minerals. And we are engaging these investors.
We also examined the president's 8-point agenda. And those are basically food security, ending poverty, economic growth and job creation, access to capital, particularly consumer credit, inclusivity in all its dimensions, particularly as regards youth and women, improving security, improving the playing field on which people and particularly companies operate, rule of law, and of course, fighting corruption.
Mr. President's vision is to ensure that Nigeria recovers lost time as quickly as possible.
The coordinating minister of the economy reiterates the administration's departure from past borrowing-centered approaches.
Clearly, the federal government is not in a position to borrow at this time. Rather, the emphasis has to be on creating a stable macroeconomic environment, stable inflation, stable exchange rate, and an environment within which people can come and invest.
Recently, Nigeria's unemployment rate dropped to 4.1% from 5.3%, thanks to a fresh methodology. While analysts acknowledge ongoing challenges, the resounding message from President Bola Tinubu and his team following the inaugural council meeting today is clear. A determined approach will tackle obstacles head-on. From the presidential villa, Adesua Omoran, Arise News.
Well, today we will understand what is going on in terms of the 8-point agenda and how to go about that. But we thank you very much, Adeto Moran, for that excellent report as always. Kay, your take on this?
Well, today I pray for President Tinubu that as long as he remains the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, God, please forgive him and give him wisdom for all the wrongdoings and his sins. Lord, I pray for the sake of innocent Nigerians to show him mercy. For all the deception during electioneering campaign about Nigeria being good and better under APC as compared to PDP, I pray that God will ignore the lies. But I am very upset that Vice President Shettima has the effrontery to say that Nigeria is in a mess. All Nigerians cannot forget how the presidential candidate of APC, the one our current president called Ogunefori APC, he said he will give us a recipe or help to remove migraine and headache. For 8 years, Nigerians suffered, but during the campaign, they told us that President Buhari has done well. Please show me the good work that every single one of the APC candidates said President Buhari did that they wanted to continue. Where are the good works I'd like to see? Show me the great improvements on the nation's polity and economy that they're trying to improve on. So if that is the case, then they have to show that they have failed us and lied to us about this. But at the moment, we just want to ask, where are the good works? And if there are none, let them acknowledge it. And then we can begin to talk about the fact that we're in a mess and how we're going to improve that mess. The FEC meeting, as I said yesterday, it was obvious that that FEC meeting is good. Inauguration, the president said all the right things. They should not fear, they should not be afraid, they should not worry. They should work on making Nigeria better. They should not be scared of anything, which is good. But I will say for sure that it is only when Nigeria acknowledges where we are that we can get better. And it looks like the president is acknowledging that we're in a mess. The vice president is acknowledging it as well. So let's work towards making sure that Nigeria gets better. Ayo.
Thanks, Kay. Well, Vice President Kashim Shettima has charged members of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms to develop a robust roadmap that will transform the country's economy. The Vice President met at the Presidential Villa with members of the committee led by the chairman, Taiwo Oyedele. Oyedele says the committee is ready to engage with sub-national governments through the National Economic Council in achieving its mandate.
Mr. President was very clear that he's not interested in committees writing reports. He has said to us, as you recommend and you get the approval, go ahead and help me to implement. So that's why we have milestones, 3 of them. The first one is the first 30 days, which is where we're focusing on the quick wins, interventions around fuel subsidy removal, exchange rate stability. And then we have the second milestone, which is the first 6 months. This first 6 months is for critical reforms. We plan to rewrite the law so they are simple, so that we remove the burden on the poorest people. And then lastly is 1 year, which is implementation. And the good thing is that the 30 days, the 6 months, and the 1 year, we run concurrently. So we're already counting down to our first 30 days.
All right. So on the focus yesterday into this morning, economic recovery, 8-point agenda, get to work or be fired.
Goodness me.
Fired.
So at first, let me start on a good note. What's the good note? Let me give kudos to President Tinubu for now understanding the level of the problems in the country, which they claimed during the election never existed. Let me also give kudos to him for admitting that there's high unemployment rate despite the 4.1% we saw by changing the format. And please, for those that make those arguments as well as international-based formats, I spoke to a reliable source that said we are not getting things right. I would not want to quote my source. And this is the most reliable source on data in this country. That it is evidence there. And if you use that ILO standard, you will not get a true reflection of what is happening. In fact, this source had been pushed before in the past be able to use that standard, and it was rebuffed. So I'm happy now that all of a sudden, without giving us 2021 data, they give us 2022 5.3, and now they're giving us 4.1. He has admitted that there's high level of unemployment. And Mr. Kashim Shettima has also admitted that this economic situation is dire. And who made this dire? President Muhammadu Buhari. So I commend and I give kudos to Bola Ahmed Tinubu as he charged the minister. Mr. K, you called it lies. Let me sugarcoat it for them so that they don't say I'm too harsh. What they said during campaign was what we call poetry.
Poetry, huh?
It's campaign poetry. You know, Mario Cuomo. They say we campaign in poetry, but we govern in prose. So they've told us the poetry of campaign. Now they are getting to the prose of governance now. And I'm happy about some things. And that's why I say I give President Tinubu kudos. He said he's going to cut cost of government. People that don't have business with hunger will not go to hunger. Let's see how he implements it. He wants to fix the economy. He wants to do this and all of that. Kudos to him on all of that. But it's in the implementation. It is not just by identifying the problem and romancing the problem. Nnamdi Azikiwe talked about analysis paralysis. We can analyze the problem to a point of paralysis. We know the problem. Everybody knew the problem. Even when the campaign poetry was going on and saying, oh, that data is wrong and all of that, when we're giving them the rightful question, and those people were tagging us and calling us, we knew the truth, but we knew their responses were poetry. But now, the same people that told us that, oh, President Muhammadu Buhari, they want to continue his legacy, now they are saying his legacy was not good enough. So they will keep talking because this is time for prose, not poetry any longer. But in order for this, their motivation to change Nigeria does not become poetry or audio, they need to back it up with implementation. And that's why this morning I want to set KPI for the ministers, because the media should do this. The Minister of Finance, for instance, number one, his major priority should be the economy. What will he do with the economy in the next 6 months? Provide jobs, resuscitate the MSMEs and the small businesses, bring about ease of doing business, working with PEBEC. Those are the most important things. Minister of Labor, job creation. Nigeria needs job. I hear in that meeting some people were talking about 50 million jobs. It's about time we get to work. And they have to show us empirical stats of how possible it is. And if they are truly ready about job creation, what they should do is month on month, how many jobs they've created, they should post it out there. It's not some poetry data when it's time for elections again. Accountability in the folk. We've been hearing a story about a certain minister with a conundrum. Decisive action also must be done as regards that. As regards other paraphernalia of government and other ministries, we must have KPIs that impact the people, and these are the targets they must set. And achieve those targets in this stipulated time. And try to achieve, because achieving might be a far-flung one. So those are the things they do. But he has said all the right words. But talking about the problem does not mean solutions to the problem. What we need is solutions. Nigerians are hungry. They are in dire straits. And that's why when Vice President Shettima was talking yesterday, when he was meeting with Mr. Taiwo Oyedele about the tax issue, he said work should be done quickly so that at least we can re-energize the businesses to be able to bring up new taxes. But I'm happy they are saying all of this. That's why I say kudos to President Tinubu. But the kudos will be better when we start to see the results. When Nigeria provides enough job for its people. When we don't need to change the strategy of calculating the number of jobs produced in the country. All the promises they are making now, if care is not taken, if they don't look for proper implementation mechanism, can also be poetry, like the poetry they campaigned during the election. It is time for prose. Let us stop the poetry. I yield the floor.
Well, in terms of how bad or dire the situation is, the president had described it as fetching water from a dry well. So he has admitted that the well is indeed dry. So one of the key areas for this particular administration would be creative ways to shore up revenue. We have a debt issue already that has also been seen as a big deal, big area to tackle, but also shore up revenue to be able to finance this lofty project. And according to the president, his vision for economic growth, prosperity for all, and ending poverty. Ladies and gentlemen, the first FEC meeting of this administration. And as we've often said, the president knew what he was getting into, or should have known what he was getting into when he was campaigning for the votes of Nigerians. Also, the ministers, as the president said yesterday, were aware of the situation when they decided willingly to accept the appointment into this office. And that's why on the day of their swearing in, I said, don't celebrate too much. What you're about to handle is serious business, serious issues, and it's not the way it was before in terms of access to funding. So when ministers like the Minister of Arts, Culture and Creative Economy comes up with an 8-point agenda, very lofty ideas, there must also be a space there as to how do you hope to fund this idea. Because unlike perhaps in previous administrations where they had a bit more in terms of revenue and monies to play around with or to work with, this administration doesn't have the luxury of that. Now, the president, at yesterday's meeting, I would say, would be termed as successful, fruitful. A number of things he highlighted. His spokesperson, Aguri Ngelale, said that he had mentioned that any non-performing minister would get the boot. So already putting them on their toes on their first, in their first few days of work. He outlined the 8-point agenda, and I think this is quite important because before you take on a job, as has been established, there must be KPIs. How can we measure you? What are the metrics on which we can measure if you've done successfully or you've just, you haven't performed at all? The first is food security. And I think that's quite key. The president had announced a state of emergency on food security earlier on in his administration. And in terms of the response to that, since that announcement, aside from the grants given to state governments and subnationals, we still have a number of Nigerians going to bed hungry. This has been spiked and exacerbated by the issue of the fuel subsidy removal, the fact that people are unable to, go about their duty, their work. Price of food as a result of hiking in petrol prices is an issue. We have security challenges, which has not enabled farmers to go to their farms. So a multi-pronged response needs to be had to address food security. However, it is commendable that it's come first, because if people are hungry, if people don't have food to eat, then you can't even begin to talk about the other areas. Food, shelter, housing, food, shelter, and I think clothing. Key areas that people need in terms of prosperity, basic things. Next thing he talked about is ending poverty. And as has been mentioned, there are some key ministries that would be critical. The Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation was created for this purpose. So Dr. Betta Edu has her work cut out for her. In the same way that we had one of the ministers, Ms. Hannatu Musa Musawa, share with us her ideas. It would be great to see the other ministers, do the same. Let us outline your plans. The president has distilled or has shared his vision. How would you make the vision come to life? How would you run with that vision? We need outlines now. Economic growth and job creation already has been mentioned. The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy has his work cut out for him. Mr. Wale Edun, I don't know how many hours you'll be having of sleep in the next few weeks or months, but the work is cut out, and he has been realistic in describing the issue, the inflation rate, just talking about how dire the situation is. As has been mentioned, we don't want to just talk about the issues. We want to look at the solutions to these issues. And we need creative ways. They have said they're not going to borrow, that Nigeria cannot afford to borrow. It will be interesting to see how they will then fund, because we've talked about the fact that they might need to borrow.
Well, we've borrowed already.
Well, they said that going forward, they're not going to borrow, that they can't afford to borrow. They also talk about the creation of 50 million jobs. This is under the purview of the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Dr. Doris Anite. We saw her there speaking. It's it's said to be over the next 3 years. So 50 million jobs in the next 3 years, so 50 million divided by 36 months. We must see that every month, this amount of jobs being created, it has to go down, filter down to subnationals, and state governments also have to share with us how they hope to do that. Access to capital, particularly consumer credit, number 4. Number 5 is inclusivity in all its dimensions, particularly as regards youths and women. This is quite important. United Nations talks about inclusion of women and young people for any nation to thrive. Again, the Ministry of Youth is still without a minister. It would be great to have that, have that role filled. And then the Minister of Women Affairs, usually the import or perhaps the power in that ministry is not maximized. I hope that Honorable Ms. Uju Kennedy will understand and bring out the potential out of that. One of the last points is ending or fighting corruption. And they said, of course, fighting corruption. It is quite important that if this government will succeed, the bane of the last administration, or one of the banes of the last administration, was corruption, even though their campaign promise was on fighting corruption and ending corruption. This administration must deliver on that promise, because if we're going to fix this economy, if we're going to make Nigeria great again, we cannot do that without fighting corruption, and it must start with the head. They must put their house together and ensure that this government is run as transparent as possible. And finally, let me talk about the rule of law, because the rule of law is an aspect of government that the last administration was criticized for as well. Unfortunately, this administration hasn't really started on a footing that inspires the confidence of Nigerians that they will indeed respect the rule of law. What's going on with Nnamdi Kanu? What's going on with Rashid Bawa? What's going on with Mr. Emefiele? What's going on with these people? It's not just talk shop. Let us see the actions play out. So great outlining the vision, but beyond outlining the vision, let us see it in action. We move on to the next story. The Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly, Mudashiru Obasa, has insisted that lawmakers are not fighting Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu. His comments came about a week after the Lagos State House of Assembly rejected 17 out of the 39 commissioners' nominees sent by Sanwo-Olu for screening. Obasa, who presided over the plenary session on Monday, said no matter the threat by some persons, the Assembly will not reveal what it discovered during the screening of the rejected commissioner's nominee. He further highlighted that the mandates the All Progressives Congress won in 1999 must be protected.
Information, going got something. If only I had our information ministry there. If you're talking about his experience, his exposure, his daily, what happens to ITV8? Have they taken the time to investigate and do some things that they are not in position to understand? We talk about COVID. COVID was an isolated case. The health sector of Lagos State is not about COVID. We have the general hospitals in Kenya, we have the general hospital of our local government. What do you have to say about them? So we just want to caution. Fine, I am a politician, I'm not going to deny that. I've always been and I will remain to be. I was a Sona chairman, I was ESCO of the ward, I was a campaign chairman, and I remain a politician. But we must understand what political party is all about. It's about a group of people who aspire to gain power. And we gained the power since 1999, and we have to sustain it. So we will not allow people who do not understand what it is all about. We have to guide them. We have to protect our party. We've had technocrats in the past, and this will come, they will go, we will still remain. So I have right to protect my party, and I will continue to do that. But we are not going to sacrifice service to our people in the name of technocrats. We are not going to do that. We continue to protect our party, protect our people in Lagos State, to serve our people in Lagos State. So if anybody is interested to know why we are taking such decision, they should approach the House. And the House as a body restrain itself from exposing what we discovered during the screening exercise. So we are not going to be forced to spill, but we need to caution. It doesn't need to caution I know I will say word, but now say pen, that they should be cautioned in using their pen for the people that have paid them to write whatever they like. We are not going to be threatened. And the civil society organization that are threatening to protest, you can protest, it's your constitutional rights. But don't think you are going to intimidate me or the House. We are not going to be intimidated. We have said no, and we have said no. If there's any reason for us to reverse our decision, if there is, and it is germane and convincing, maybe we may, but not by threats. It's not going to be by threats. We are politicians. If not for us, the technocrats won't be appointed. It's because we are successful as politicians. That is why the technocrats are being appointed. So we are about the party, and we are about Lagos. And we continue to serve our people because we are representing their interests. We have been doing that before now, and we continue to do that. The people come first before any other person. It does not matter your degree. It does not matter your... We are talking about Julius Berger, somebody serving Julius Berger, somebody is international. Who is not international among us? We have people who came from abroad to contest for Lagos membership of Lagos State House of Assembly. They are still here with us. So as my people will say, we don't want instigation, and we don't want conflicts. We are working together, the House and the executive. We are brothers, we are family, and we'll continue to work together. But we need to caution the forthcoming rules not to instigate crisis. And those who are living in glass house also to be careful.
All right. Honorable Mudashiru Obasa, Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly, talking tough and saying that they will not be intimidated. Okay.
On the one hand, Rufai and Ayo, on the one hand, I'm enjoying what he is saying because there are facts in some of the things that he's saying. There are facts. There are areas of lapses that you will find in Lagos, and this is across the entire nation. Every state has got areas of lapses, failures by state government and governors across Nigeria, and there are successes as well. In Lagos, for example, there are areas that you cannot fault Governor Sanwo-Olu, that he has done well. And there are areas that led to the situation where Labour Party gave APC a run for every single kobo they could spend. And it was a serious competition, and it was one that is still in court till today, and we don't know how the court decision will go. But at the end of the day, it was obvious that it was a very, 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 very close fight, that it's almost impossible to see a gap between them. So the Right Honorable Speaker of the House in Lagos State Assembly, he's saying the truth to a large extent. But these are brothers, and their fight should never be on the streets. If you want to wash your dirty linen, keep it within the house, one will say. And I saw something yesterday, and Rufai last night actually, when this video came out, somebody said, Egungun, be careful, you're going on the express. Egungun, be careful, you're going on the express. So when, basically indeed, so when the speaker is speaking like this, and some members of APC, and these are not members of Labour, some members of APC, they're the ones saying, Egungun, be careful, you're going on the express, then definitely the speaker must have listening ear and listen to them, because members of your party are saying, Egungun, be careful, because the way you're dancing, you've got to remember that you will continue to be a member of APC. The governor of Lagos State will continue to be a member of APC. And your entire principal is in Abuja. So he's not in Bodilon at the moment to make sure he's going to call both of you and say, sit down and let's have this conversation. I don't want any of my children, in the manner of speaking, going out and having this kind of street fight. Street fight is not a solution. Resolve the issues, don't make it public, and make sure that the best is done for the people of Lagos. The people of Lagos want to be served well. You have your point regarding some of these individuals, and those who are Nigerians, who are Lagosians, who are residents of Lagos, if you don't want to call us who are not directly indigenous people of Lagos, we are residents of Lagos. And we know what happened in the last 4 years. We know the people that showed a lot of care for Lagos and Lagosians and residents of Lagos. We know them. If there are areas of lapses, you can resolve that. So I'll let you guys go on.
We're fine.
In fact, let me continue from where Kay stopped and sing the full song by Abbas Akande Obesere before I start my comments. He says, Egungun, be careful, now express you they go. What it means is that the masquerade, be careful, you are going on the expressway. And he goes further to say that, I don't want him, I don't tell him, motto, don't jam him. What it means is that the masquerade on the expressway was hit by an oncoming vehicle. So what it means invariably... Yes. Egungun, be careful, now express you they go. Motto, go jam him. So something happened that day. So that's the full song. Just kidding there. But the truth has to be said. This is an internal fight in the fold of the APC in Lagos. It's a fight between the speaker and also the executive arm. And that's why this is happening. And this is quite unusual, because normally there's always an alignment between the speaker and the governor. He holds the ace. But now this is an open fight internally. He has gone out mudslinging with all of this. Probably in the future, in the grand analysis, this video, he might be called to come and account for the things he said in this video. And that's why I should be careful. Hence, the allusion to what you were saying, that Egungun, be careful, now express you they go. Egungun in Yoruba means masquerade. So, he has said a lot. Thrown direct attack. Thrown direct form of indictment by asking what happened in some government parastatal. At the same time, he also says he's not going to release the report because he wants to protect his party. I am sure a lot is going on amongst their folk as we speak today. But the thing about politicians is the fact that it's always about their interests they fight for. All of this, you might see them at loggerheads now, between 48 hours, they might have settled. And you will hear, oh, I said this out of anger, I said that out of anger. And before you know it, you will not even know what happened, and everything is all resolved. And you will see it linger as much as it goes on. But the most important thing I'd like to tell the people is that please do not die in the war of politicians. It's always about their interest. Because for the masquerade, the Egungun to dance in the first place, before it goes to the expressway, there is somebody behind beating the drum for the Egungun, the masquerade, to be dancing before it has the infantry to go to the expressway. And in this regard, the question is, who is beating this drum for this masquerade that is dancing very boisterously, approaching the expressway despite oncoming vehicles everywhere? You know, that question I asked is subject to time. Time will tell.
All right, so I have a few questions actually following that, the audio and the video from the Honorable Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly. He said that the reason why they rejected 17 of those commissioners nominee is because of the interest of the party and the people. So put the people first. He would not be intimidated by people saying that it's political and all that. So I want to ask a question. If he was acting in the stead of the people, does it mean, by inference, that the governor was acting against the people and against the party by nominating these people as commissioners? Just a question for him to answer. Because it almost sounds as if they were not coming from the same party in that speech. And that's why I do agree with you, Rufai, that he might have to, respond to the question or some questions as to what he alluded to in that video. Because if you're saying that, this person didn't do well for LTV, this person didn't do well in this area, even though people think they did quite well, and so by reappointing them, it was not in the best interest of the people and the party, and he was speaking that he had to defend the cause of the party. Is it the governor that is not defending the cause of the party? Is it the governor that is not looking out for the people? That's a very important question to answer. Then beyond that, I think it's also a show of power. Political power and might. And I say this because previously the speaker, the honorable speaker, had talked about the fact that the role of the State House of Assembly is for checks and balances for the executive, so that the legislature has a role to play in government. Therefore, it means that the legislature has the power to impeach the governor if they so think that he deserves to be impeached. There is power there. It's power now that will pass power. Now, usually they say when two elephants fight, the grass suffers. In this case, I think the grass is flourishing. You know why? We wouldn't have known that, LTV is there, so let's not probe that. So please, Honorable Speaker, speak more. Let us hear some of the other things that these people haven't done. He said we should approach the House so he can give us details as to these commissioners, so that we know the true state of things and we don't just look at things on the surface. Again, speak on. But at the end of the day, we hope that you wouldn't use opportunity. It's not only when you have issues internally that the people deserve the truth. That you would, in the same vein, stand for the people, stand for your party, both in the good and the bad times. So I'm looking forward to this unveiling. In this case, Speaker, speak on.